Genuine Farm. Chapter 3. The Community. Most NFT traders still remember Genuine Undead as the free mint that reached 1 Ethereum floor price. They remember the chart, the volume, the sales, and the excitement. However, those who lived it know the most memorable part of GU was the community itself, because that was where Genuine Undead truly lived. Not on OpenSea, not on charts, but inside a Discord server where, somehow, hundreds of strangers had begun to feel like they belonged. The traders had carved out their own corner of the community. One of them was Dehe. He moved through the marketplace with admirable recklessness. GUs appeared and disappeared from his wallet at a speed that left most holders wondering if he ever actually slept. He rarely explained his moves. He would never want to give away his strategy. Suiso and Wienermom were the complete opposite. If Dehe was a lone wolf, they were Bonnie and Clyde. Suiso spotted opportunities while Wienermom was already halfway through buying them. It became impossible to mention one without the other, and nobody really tried. In a different time zone of the trade channel, Jeruzzi was hunting for deals while simultaneously asking newcomers to check for DMs they would never find. Discord rugging, he explained, happens. But not everyone cared about trading. Most holders were completely different. They were collectors, pixel art appreciators, or simply investors with a long-term mindset. Where traders chased movement, investors chased beauty. They hunted grails, discussing aesthetics, provenance, and artistic significance with an intensity that outsiders often mistook for snobbery. Olga Uehura, 98, very serious investor, and 2 ETH became quietly respected throughout the Discord, alongside several others whose wallets never failed to impress both newer and older community members. Throughout the Discord and Twitter, smaller communities were beginning to bloom. The French holders had gathered around Tao and Neo Merlin, eventually establishing what they called the Paperboy Club. It started as an appreciation for the Paperboy hat trade, but quickly became something bigger. Owning the hat meant belonging to something. It became one side to their identity. In a nearby channel, the Italians had found their own rhythm. Satoshi and Lear spaces had become legendary. They drifted effortlessly between crypto, culture, philosophy, and complete nonsense without ever losing an audience. Saigo often used those spaces to talk about an ambitious dream that sounded almost impossible at the time, creating a GU comic book built by the community itself. Most people smiled politely at the idea, unsure whether he was joking or simply thinking too far ahead. Eki sometimes joined those conversations, but he was just as likely to disappear into one of the quieter Discord voice channels afterwards. Inside those voice channels, Sandman, Goku, and Cyberdemon spent countless evenings in GU Minecraft server. Nobody had asked them to build it. There was no roadmap item promising Minecraft integration. They simply enjoyed creating things together, just like the rest of the community. Castles appeared where there had once been empty fields. Giant pixel art skulls overlooked villages. Entire nights vanished 1 block at a time. Perhaps that was the strange thing about GU. Everyone seemed to have found their place. Some people traded, some people collected. Some people educated newcomers, some hosted spaces. Some simply vibed. Nobody questioned whether the anonymous founder had left too soon anymore. The community had become the team exactly as he had imagined. Even the project's myths seemed to grow naturally. Slinger had convinced half the Discord that watch caps were destined to become the collection's ultimate status symbol. Nobody knew exactly when he had started saying it, but he repeated it with such confidence that people eventually stopped questioning him and simply started buying. Olga and Nikki followed suit. Prices climbed accordingly. Dr. Boom had quietly achieved the same thing with the loot trade. Owning a few himself certainly didn't hurt, nor did the fact that Maison proudly displayed one as well. Very soon, Red Skulls had become the collection's most sought-after NFTs, regularly commanding prices far above the floor. Everything felt possible, even as the market began cooling. The floor slipped beneath 0.8. Nobody seemed particularly concerned. It's healthy. We're shaking out weak hands. UN1's charts seemed to agree. The Analytics Council had become the project's unofficial voice of reason. Every sale was dissected, every sweep celebrated, every dip analyzed. "It's just a healthy correction," he explained. "The project is really picking up momentum," someone answered. Nobody could remember who had written it first, but it had become GU's favorite copy pasta. Most people pasted it ironically, others genuinely believed it. Most of the time, it was impossible to tell the difference. Not that anyone seemed particularly worried. The floor had touched 1 Ethereum at its peak, or at least most people agreed it had. It was only 0.9, Slinger would insist whenever the subject came up. It was 1 ETH, Maison answered. The argument never really went anywhere. It simply became another running joke. What did Slinger care anyway? Looking back, the greatest achievement of GU was never the floor price. It was the simple belief that the community could govern itself. That belief was tested sooner than anyone expected. One evening, Dr. Boom announced a special guest for his Twitter space. His name was Skell. He was a businessman from London, instantly recognizable by his deep voice and the quiet confidence with which he spoke. Unlike most people in NFTs, Skell rarely sounded excited. He sounded calm, certain. He also happened to own one of the collection's most iconic one-of-ones. Chaos. Skell admired what Genuine Undead had built, and he wanted to become part of its story. His idea was straightforward. He owned a gambling platform and offered to sponsor Genuine Undead financially in exchange for promoting his platform through the GU community. Dr. Boom explained, "It's a very generous offer. More funding could mean more development, more events, more opportunities." For a moment, the idea seemed tempting. But Genuine Undead had been founded on principles before profits. The decision would not belong to Dr. Boom, nor to Maison, nor the Undead Council. The guidelines were clear. The proposal was put to a community vote. Suddenly, the Discord was divided. What was normally a peaceful hangout spot had quickly turned into a political forum. Arguments filled the main chat, while Twitter Spaces ran late into the night. Nobody could have predicted that the community would be called to vote so early in its existence. Some believed sponsorship would help the project grow. Others argued that associating GU with a gambling platform was hasty, and it would not fit the values and ethos of Genuine Undead. When the voting finally closed, the answer was clear. The proposal was rejected. The community had spoken. Dr. Boom was disappointed, but he accepted the result without hesitation. Looking back, the money was never the important part. What mattered was what the vote had proven. The community was in control of the project, and the guidelines would not be ignored. As Genuine Undead continued to grow, so did the weight of the decisions placed before its community. The weeks ahead would bring questions no one had thought to ask during those carefree summer days. Some would divide friends, others would test convictions, and each one would leave the community just a little different than before.